So we'll start with the Seattle Seahawks, champions of the NFC. Heavily favored, like I said, Adam, heavily favored, and rightly so in my brain. What a team! I mean, we had the LA Rams game, Seattle game last weekend, and we sort of said that was our Super Bowl because we knew it was going to be a heavyweight matchup. It was reminiscent of Muhammad Ali fights in the in times gone by, with a massive George Foreman, Ali rumble in the jungle sort of scenario. Not that there's a jungle in Seattle nor in Los Angeles either. Maybe a bit of a concrete jungle. But Seattle, I mean, I'm running out of sort of superlatives to describe how amazing this team is and how all conquering they are on both sides of the ball. And Sam Darnold silencing the doubters as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really difficult, isn't it? Because obviously you kind of want to have a good game for the Super Bowl. Everyone does. That's kind of what you want to see. It doesn't always happen, but it is kind of what you want. And it feels like it's going to be tough for the Patriots to be able to do much. Well, not much, but be able to compete with a team in Seattle that really is just that good on, offense, defense, special teams. It really is and has had a great season, Seattle, and it kind of feels like it's about, it's going to continue. Sometimes when it's a bit like this, it does feel a little bit like, oh, everybody is saying how amazing the Seahawks are, and everyone's saying that it's going to go this way, that, it kind of takes all the pressure off the other team. But yeah, I mean, it's tough to see a different outcome because Seattle, the offense under Darnold, I think that's kind of been what we have perceived as the weak point, to be honest, out of the whole thing. And yet it goes to show that when he went up against the Rams last week, just how good he can be and how he has that ability to go out and throw for over 300 yards and get 3 touchdowns and not have any interceptions in a game, which becomes not a complete shootout, but it kind of was a bit of a shootout, that game. And then obviously the team itself, if you have to go away from that and you have to grind it out a bit more and you have to be a bit more defensive or you have to rely on the run game more, it can do that as well. And so it really is difficult to see how Seattle don't do really well here. And, a lot of credit has to go to Mike McDonald and just the coaching staff in general, because I think Clint Kubiak, especially as the offensive coordinator,
Soon to be new Las
well,
Vegas
it
Raiders
does
head
feel
coach.
that way, doesn't it? Seem to be the Las Vegas Raiders head coach. You have to sort of, like you say, it kind of felt like the defense going into this season felt as though it would be reasonably good. And I think you could argue special teams, we didn't really know, but, there was a chance. And obviously the trade for Shaheed really sort of pushed that up. But the offense was kind of where we felt like, will Jackson Smith and Jigba sort of kick on? Will they have enough weapons for Darnold? Will Darnold be able to do what he did for the Vikings? There was a lot of question marks over it. But I think that you can see that a lot of them questions have been answered. And, if it becomes a very tight game where they're going to have to rely on the run a bit more, then they'll probably do that pretty well. And if it ends up being a shootout, well, they can do that as well. So there's a lot of positives for Seattle.
Yeah, I think any team that gets a Super Bowl, it is that sort of special ingredient mix, and that sort of special sauce that sort of gets you there. They are firing on all cylinders in every sort of facet of their game. The O-line's been tremendous. Darnold's been, fantastic. You say about question marks in terms of receiving. I still think Kenneth Walker has question marks over him as well. His fitness, his injury prone. He's sort of been that middling running back. He's not at the elite end. He's not at the bad end. They had a string at one point of backups / he was sort of backup at one point, and then they landed with Zach Charbonnet. Charbonnet is going to be injured for this game. But he carried that load last week, and he proved that it can be sort of a one-man show with him in that running back room. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think it was bold in that offseason. DK Metcalf, you can say what you want and everything about it, but he's got name power. He has star power about him. And to go, we're going to move off of him. Tyler Lockett was an obvious one. You could have. I do argue you could have kept him around instead of Cooper Kupp. You could have done it a different way, I suppose. But then Cooper Kupp plays that slot position a lot better than Tyler Lockett does. He is that speedster, but he is what, 32 now. Moved off of Fan. They moved off some guys that were proven guys in the NFL, and they went to the well. They believed in their guys, and it prospered for them. And it's the same on the other side of the ball. They've not made any really notable big moves or signings with the defense. I suppose they brought in Nwosu a couple of years ago, didn't they? And Che Nwosu. In fact, he's even there still. Actually, now I'm thinking about it.
I'm not sure if you, but yeah, I mean, you are right in respect of like they did make some big, bold decisions, and they sort of, I suppose, went
I
towards.
mean, we're scaling of the one that's the biggest one of all is obviously moving off of Geno Smith and bringing in Sam Darnold.
Yeah, I mean, it was because obviously, like at the beginning of the season, there were people coming out going, well, it's the same type of quarterback play, the same sort of numbers from from previous years. What would be the sort of benefit of that to them? And it just kind of felt like they decided that was the right time to make the move and to change the quarterback and change different things in the organization. And maybe that was an element of Mike McDonald kind of being like, well, for his first season he just wanted to see what he had, and then maybe okay, now I feel like I know what we've got, I know where we need to go and where to be. And obviously the changes were made, and I think like you say, Tyler Lockett going is not really a massive shock. Obviously, really big, popular character for Seahawks fans, but it just kind of felt like, given his age, it was the right move to make. But yeah, the DK Metcalf trade is kind of the big move in a way. With the sort of Geno Smith and Sam Darnold one, you can come out and go, well, they've gone for someone younger. So you could kind of see where the logic was behind it, and sort of almost be like, well, if we're getting the same play, then why not? Sort of thing. It kind of made sense. So you could kind of see where the logic was for that. But the DK Metcalf trade, he's in his prime. So to go out and basically just get rid, they obviously saw something that they weren't that keen on. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it. So to get rid of him, to move on from that, obviously they knew they were very confident in Jackson Smith and Jigba and his abilities. And I think to a certain extent, I think most people felt like he was going to kick on. So that's not really a shocker. But I think,
I don't think to this extent though.
No, that's true. I think that we felt like he could be one of, not necessarily the best receiver in the NFL. And I still, he's had a very good season, but I don't think he's that. But I feel like
in my brain, if the DK was staying there, I would have gone, this is an opportunity for Smith and Jigba to be the best number 2 in the league. You know what I mean? Like that was like my thing of it. Is like I don't know if JS will be the top one, but I think he's got a very good opportunity to be the best number 2 receiver in this. He can compete with T. Higgins. You know what I mean? Like at the time, we didn't really know what was going on with George Pickens in Dallas, but that's where I had JSN before the season started.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. I mean, I wouldn't say that I had him specifically anywhere, to be honest, but I just kind of I feel like now we should all have learned that if a wide receiver comes out of Ohio State, there's a good chance he's going to be pretty good. So I think that kind of tells you that that's sort of the way forward, and that's that there was a good chance that he was going to be decent. But it's but it Yeah, I think that he's probably kicked on slightly more than what we all thought that he might. I mean, obviously, it's opportunity, isn't it? DK Metcalf goes and loads of targets suddenly come up for him. So that's how come it's happened. But he's been able to do it. He hasn't had any serious injury issues over the season. He's managed to be all right throughout all of that. And they've done really well. And then I think a big thing, and this is something that came up with us during the draft last year, where I remember you saying to me about how well Schneider doesn't draft O-line guys. Like it's just not what he does. And he comes out and he goes and gets Gray Zabel, who was someone who I
Completely
remember
missed on that, didn't I? Completely missed.
I remember talking about during the draft show and saying
You
to
were really
Andrew,
keen on
like,
him.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Thought he was great and looked really good and has been brilliant for him. You know, has
Mhm.
done really, really well and really helped plug that left side with Charles Cross. And I think that they've got they've got everything going for them.
I think we've got to, because you look on the defensive side of the ball, and they've been very heavily drafting defensive guys for a while. I mean, is John Schneider up there with one of the best GMs in the league now in terms of drafting? I
I
mean,
think he has to be
you
because
have to
not
say he is. He's just
not
hitting, hitting, and hitting.
yeah, not only because I mean obviously the drafting stuff has been great, but it's also the fact that he has gone to the Super Bowl and won it with Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll all them years ago, and now he's doing it, and he's gone to the Super Bowl again with Mike McDonald and
Mm.
Sam Darnold, and
And a
the
different
ability.
model, really.
Yeah, yeah, a different
A
model, but
different. I know that's coaching more, but that team was Legion of Boom, run
yeah,
heavy, and you could go, all right, they've dubbed themselves the dark side, the secondary for Seattle. And I mean, that's got to be up there all time best nicknames. I love that so much, the dark side. And but they've not completely lent on the run this year. It's been a different model, but again, that is coaching. But Schneider has accommodated, is drafted to accommodate that, hasn't he?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I think that's something that you're seeing, and not. I'm not saying it's the only way you can win, but you know, you look at the Rams, you look at the Packers. It's kind of similar things. The the defenses are very young. You know, it's like it's about bringing in. Obviously, you have certain guys who are like established pros and veterans on your defense, but Nick Eamon was drafted last year. Great, for them. Devin Witherspoon is still on his rookie contract. There's
Kareem
some
Hunt,
really yeah, yeah. Is that Byron Murphy? I think is still on his rookie
Julian
deal.
Love, Byron Murphy. I mean, when you say veteran, Leonard Williams is tremendous this season.
Yeah, and Demarcus Lawrence has been good for them as well, sort of
Yes.
thing. And it's like that's kind of what you need. You need a few of them, but the facts is like you need to have a really young defense that's ready to go and has got that explosive nature about them. And I think that you can see that in this Seahawks team. So yeah, I mean they've done really really well on offense, defense, and then special teams. They realised that that was a potential weakness. They go out and trade for Rashid Shaheed, who didn't cost the world, but I think it was a third round pick. I think he was, and they've gone out and they've done it, and has made a massive improvement to the special teams as well. And also, obviously, he can come in and play wide receiver and help with the depth there. So it kind of feel like they not only did they sort of bring in a really good team, but they also sort of had that feeling of like, okay, we need to improve this little bit here to push us over the top. And arguably, it could well be doing it.
To sort of round this off, a word on Sam Darnold. We all know his journey and how turbulent it's been, and he was tremendous in Minnesota, and he's been remarkable this season. The big thing has been like when's it going to run out? When's it going to turn into Sam Darnold being poor? Because it's sort of what happened with Minnesota at the end in the playoffs, and we have seen it in prior places. Do you think I think even if he loses this game now, he has done enough in the last 2 seasons that you can't dispute this guy's got it. This guy is a franchise quarterback. He's won playoff. He's got to the big game, and even if he tanks in this game, I just don't think you can come out and say, well, he's not that good, or we're seeing a bit of what he really was at New York and Carolina. Like he's it's I think he's completely shaken that now from my point of view.
Yeah, I think the fact that he has managed to have 2 14-3 seasons in a row with 2 different organizations shows that he has the ability to be a decent quarterback who can be used as a franchise guy and can, you don't have to look at moving away from him. He's clearly got that ability about him. I think Vikings fans would have been more than happy for him to still have been there this season. And the only reason that that kind of happened was because obviously they drafted JJ McCarthy and they wanted to see what they had with him. And obviously when they signed Darnold, he hadn't really done that much, so that was the reason behind it. So you can completely understand the theory behind that. And but yeah, I think that he's shown that he's a capable quarterback. He's shown that he has the ability to lead a team. And you can come out and you can say like, the defense is helping them along, or like he's got some very good, reliable wide receivers, or the O line has been fantastic. These are all true, but there's not many Super Bowl winning teams where that isn't true. It's like you look back and you look at the Patriots when they won all them times, and everyone can come out and go Brady was amazing, but Brady wasn't like the best necessarily, the most sort of like pinpoint precision sort of quarterback. He wasn't necessarily the guy who ran with his legs. He wasn't, but he was good for the team. And over the course of his career, that's why we call him the greatest, because of how many times he won as well. But the point is, you don't necessarily have to be the best quarterback in order for your team to win the Super Bowl.
We said it the other day when we talked about like weaknesses and stuff like that. Are we and Sky laughed about it, the weakness is Sam Darnold, and I mean now with him and how he sort of silenced that. What is the weakness of this team? Because I would still lean on that he can turn the ball over. Now, I think they're that good a team that sometimes it doesn't matter, but this is the Super Bowl. It is these things that change the outcome of the game. Is that fair to sort of say that's their weakness still? Because that's the only one in my brain where I'm like, when I look at this team, it's just, well, he just turned the ball over a little bit too much for me.
Yeah, I mean, he had, was it 14 interceptions this regular
15,
season?
I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he does have that about him, and he might end up doing that. But in reality, it's like when you look at the other sides of the ball, it's
Sorry,
hard.
it was 14. Sorry,
Okay,
apologies.
it's hard to come out and say that the defense is a weakness. There isn't anywhere on the defense that's a weakness. Like I say, special teams has been good. You can't come out and say that that's a weakness either. So it does kind of boil down back to Sam Darnold again. It's like Smith and Jigba is probably one of the most reliable wide receivers in the NFL now. Cooper Kupp has had a very, very quiet season, but during the playoffs has turned up at important points, and is again another reliable
Come in
pass
and done
catcher.
exactly what they needed him to do.
Yeah,
Just be that
exactly, and that's
reliable
what.
guy in big
Yeah,
games.
that's exactly what they want and what they needed him for. And you know, the run game is good even without Zach Charbonnet. It's like I know that Charbonnet kind of took over in respect of sort of like the amount of snaps compared to Walker, but when he went out, Walker still, he had 3 touchdowns against the 49ers. So it's like he's still a very, very good running back. There are very few weaknesses. I think Darnold is probably the one that you kind of think to yourself, he might be that. The pressure might get to him, but you didn't see the pressure get to him against the Rams. And, largely you can come out and say that's because of the O-line and how good the O-line was. But do I feel like the Patriots front 7 are going to be more explosive against this O-line than what the Rams front 7 were? Maybe, but probably not that much difference, to be honest. So yeah, I think it's fair to still question Darnold, but I think he's probably going to be all right.